All right. So I made it finally, and it only took me, wrestling with this for a while. But we're gonna hide that for just a bit, and we're gonna go through all that. Hold on. Oh, it's this. It's the wrong camera. I've been having technical problems all day, guys. Hold on one second. Uh, there we are. Finally. Sorry, just a little bit of some minor technical issues. I was fighting with Stellarium all evening, trying to get this to work and share and all this, and it was remarkably easy. I'm just an idiot. So we're gonna do. Let's see. Let's take a few minutes to say howdy to everyone who's in chat, and we'll address a couple of questions. By the way, today is the first time that we're simulcasting on both our Facebook page and the YouTube page, so we get to do both. Maybe we'll get some friends in. Titan is first. Then we got A. Brunson, MH1953, Gene Hudson, oh, Crow. I believe this is your first time in the chat. Howdy. And that's everyone for and so you're from Portugal. Interesting. Susan Robertson. Howdy. Cheese Freak Ginger Snap, still the best name in the internet. Lisa Lou, howdy. Wonderful. I'm glad everyone's here. We'll give everyone a few minutes to hop on. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Revelation 12. And I finally got this up so I can show y'all more or less what was happening. And like I said, I really was fighting with it. They actually switched some stuff around since the last. I'm not kidding when I say this. The last version I used was back in 2015, 2014, 20. I think the last time I really used this program, truly used the program was 2017. It was just double checking a few things, but really, Titan Sun, great. Well, we got CJ as your sister pops in from time to time. Your PT, welcome. Any child of Titan is someone we're going to watch very carefully. We know your dad too well. But no, the really last time I was really using the program was really 2015 and 2016 when I was wrapping up all of the stuff. So yeah, they've made some minor changes in the intervening 4 and 5 years. So I got it. It's basically all the same. Okay, great. I'm glad he's in the Air Force. I won't hold that against him. Sorry, Army family. And actually, my friends in the Navy, I give him more crap than anything else. Trust me. So I can't speak too much more about that because he is currently deployed. We'll just say that. But seriously, thank you for Crow. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you being there. What do you? Okay, so do you fly? What do you do? I'm interested now. Like to know because there's so many jobs. I actually had a friend in the Air Force. He was munitions. So he was in. Where was he? He was actually in South Korea for like 5 years. So it's cool. Telecommunications. So you're probably the most dangerous person in the military right now. With all the fourth and fifth generation warfare we got going on, you're probably the most dangerous person here. So yeah, no, actually, I tried to convince my oldest to look at joining the Air Force so he could hop over to the Space Force, but oh well. So interesting. See, that's the thing is there's so many things going on right now with the military and the technology involved. It's insane. So, hey, have fun with that. Fiber and copper antennas. Interesting. See, here's the problem. I'm a geek. I want to know more about that. I saw a question about Rob. it hit him pretty hard. He is good though. Last I checked with him, I talked to him yesterday. Well, we texted yesterday. I didn't want him, talking, the oxygen thing. But he's okay. They've got him all hooked up, set up with proper medications and stuff. He's doing well. I was going to check on him over the weekend. He was supposed to be down here while we were gallivanting and stuff, but the mall is. I just saw that. So yeah, it's going to be fun. He was supposed to be down here for Brown Springs. I'm actually heading up there tomorrow around noon-ish. So I'll be back on Saturday. So we're still going to do Sunday. Everything's fine. It'll be fun. Oh, Batmom got her youngest ears pierced. And yes, the mall is traumatizing, and there is so much going on right now. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. Last time I was in a mall, it was a couple months ago. Went to the Healing Mall out in Fort Worth because they've got some sort of aquarium thing in it now, and it's actually really cool. But man, there was nothing there. Like, nothing there. It is nuts. It was just crazy nuts. We do have a lot to talk about today, so I don't want to get too late a start, but I saw Titan was causing trouble like normal, so let me take a look at your questions here. There must have been a physical change in man's was spiritual one. It's also being a physical change. It was a spiritual one. Okay, so you asked like really 12 different questions in that one, Titan. Like, seriously, there's 12. Okay, so here's as far as the Garden of Eden thing, probably the best way to think of it is this, because here's the problem, right? Anything we do or say is complete conjecture. There's just no other part to it. It's conjecture. So what we can say is, was there a change? Possibly. The question is, what degree? What kind of change was it? I really do think that there wasn't as big a change as we would think, at least not immediately. That it was more of that there was the garden itself was set up for humanity to live forever. We weren't meant to die. That's why the tree of life was there. By separating us from the tree of life, its properties to renew, regenerate, heal us, we were cut off from it. So I don't necessarily think the change was as big as one would imagine. It was more separating us from those things that would allow us to live forever. That having been said, I'm also not as convinced that the supernatural and physical are as separate as we tend to think. Again, political warfare is spiritual warfare to a degree. We have to understand these things. So I would think that whatever changes occurred once sin entered the world, there is clearly a spiritual component, but there had to be a physical component. But to say definitively what that was is impossible, because we don't have any. There's no record of what we were before outside of the fact that what comes from the scriptures. So that's all we really know. And so here's the deal. And why do we not walk in both victories, spiritual versus physical? Here's the thing. We actually will. Right now, all of our victories are spiritual that have physical repercussions. But remember, when Jesus returns, that millennial kingdom, everything goes back to sort of square one, where people are living for centuries. Like, that changes. Remember, the earth is changed. We are changed. The humans that are alive changed. And then once you have the return of Jerusalem to the earth, and after the white throne judgment, we do walk in both physical and spiritual victory. We walk in both. So it's more about timing than that. Wineskins, I think that's more, again, I think you know what? There can be a physical component to that, but I think it's more of it is intended to be more philosophical and spiritual, right? You have to have new ideas, new life in something new. So it's a metaphor that works on many ways. But again, I think we all get new wineskins, right, in New Jerusalem. That's when we are resurrected, we have a new body. That's new wineskins with new life. So there you have it. The trick is that this is one of those things where, unfortunately, there's some questions we just don't have a sufficient amount of information because the text doesn't give it to us. And unfortunately, we don't have a record of anything that happens before sin from like a fossil record perspective. But I have a sneaking suspicion whatever the changes were not as immediate as we would think, right? So okay, we're still talking about ooh, kneeling on raw rice. That's harsh. I mean, geez, that uncooked rice. That man. That nah. Mm-mm. So okay, real quick, let's definitely open to some prayer, and then we are going to talk about Revelation 12. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about, so we're going to try and do this as quickly as possible. I am leaving a ton of material out. I'm going to be jumping from point A to point B, or like we're going to be skipping a bunch of steps. So it's not even point A to point B. It's like point A. 85 was like 30 when I got my daughter's ears pierced, but it was a long time ago. To like point D, so we're gonna have to skip B, and C, right? But it'll make sense when we do it. But I'm skipping a lot of steps. So if you have any questions, again, the tetralogy, it's if it's on Amazon, you can go to my page. If you go to sirupapers.com, you can find all my books there, and you can download them, and it'll walk you through. Very poorly written. I've decided not to make any revisions to it because there's just too much material there. And the fact is, it's put up way before all this stuff, in advance. So that's kind of a thing, is to show that I haven't changed from 2014. I've added a few things here and there over the years, but by and large, what I saw back in 2014 I'm still on that pathway. So, but like I said, this will hopefully make the most sense of anything. So we're going to open to some prayer, and then we are going to jump in real fast. It's a big thing. Titan, you're probably not wrong. Heavenly Father, we thank you and we praise you for all that you've done. Father, we thank you that we can come together to learn more about you, to read your word, to examine it the way no other culture in the history of the world has been able to examine it. That we can come together and worship your name and learn more about you, that you have given us this time, that we could have been born anywhere at any time, and you chose this era for us. Father, let us never lose track of where we are and what you plan for us to do. Never let us lose the forest for the trees. Keep our hearts and our minds focused on you. Let the truth we speak be your truth. Open our hearts to your ways and your love. Never let the world harden our hearts. Don't let us give in to those emotions that are base, that are animalistic, that the world likes to tempt and taunt and bring out, that the world likes to appease. Let us reject those things for that which you've called us to: beauty, truth, love, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. Let us focus on those things that are beautiful and good. Let us recognize that the darkness of the world is a temporary thing, but your flame is eternal. Father, it's in this truth that we come to you and we praise your holy name. And Father, we know that there's a person out there that you are working in. You're working in their lives and their hearts. It is they who know all of the evil of this world: Hollywood, Washington, big business. And we know that you are working on them, that you will bring them forward to expose this darkness. Father, give us the strength to stand. the courage to speak, and the wisdom to use your words, not ours. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, Revelation 12. So, we are going to read that very quickly because this is kind of an important thing. It's always good to actually read the text you're talking about. Little thing I have, I don't know, I'm weird that way. So here's the situation. John the Revelator is in Jerusalem supernaturally, and he looks up. So we know he's in Jerusalem. He's measured the new temple, and now he looks up. And he's given a great sign. He says, "And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns on his heads, 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, but her child was caught up to God and to his throne." We're going to pause there because Revelation 12, basically, the alignment ends there. The conclusions don't end there, but we'll leave it there for now. We have a couple things we need to address before we can hop into the image. One, why do we believe this is an astronomical sign and not something else? Right? It's because this is one of those things that comes under a lot of fire. People are like, the Bible doesn't talk about astrology. We shouldn't be doing astrology. Astrology is evil. Well, here's the thing. Yes, astrology is evil. We are not to do astrology. The Bible clearly calls us not to engage in astrology. However, the Bible does tell us and actually commands us to astronomy. There is a difference. Astrology is looking to the stars to guide you, the stars to influence your life, to manipulate. Again, it is magic. Astronomy is observing. Here's the thing. We are told in Genesis why the sun, moon, and stars exist. Right? Chapter 1. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So what's interesting is that word sign, again, Hebrew, Revelation was written in Greek, 2 different words. However, they actually mean the same thing. It's not just, the idea is it's actually sort of like a sign that tells you something. And I know you're like, well, but that's what a sign does. Like, here's your sign. It's how we know you're an idiot. What I mean is, it is actually like a standard, right? It is something that is held up to showcase who, what, when, where. It's not. It does mean sign, but it's an actual sign, not necessarily some astrological thing. It's a literal sign that's being said. It was to communicate an idea, and it means it in both ways, and they both actually have an inference of the divine, that it's a sign from God that you're looking at. So it's for signs, and then the seasons, date, that's time, that's telling time. So that's okay. So cheese free ginger stem is exactly where I was going. We would call it the zodiac. They call it the Mazzaroth. The constellations are how Jews tell time. They have a luni-solar calendar. So all of these sidereal constellations are important. In fact, let's be real clear here. The Mazzaroth, there are 12 calendar months, 12 sidereal constellations. 12 tribes of Israel. That's not a coincidence. All of their signs, the signs for each individual tribe, is literally a constellation. And I know some people are like, well, hold on, but what wasn't there? Aren't there technically 13? Two of them, the house of not Jacob. Oh, I just forgot his name. Joseph. Joseph's two sons. They make up one house or one tribe. And by the way, they kind of change out from time to time. Like there can only be 12 named, but if you go throughout the Bible, you'll notice that some lose their positions. Anyway, so yes, the constellations are big deals. That's how the Jewish calendar works. It's tied into their identities. It's all there. So there is a huge difference between astrology, which is it's a form of magic. It's believing those stars are influencing us, who we are, how we live, our destinies. That's bull crap. Astronomy, though, we are absolutely called to do. Besides, where did Jesus himself say to look for the end times? So there would be signs. Same word as uses in Revelation. Yes, this will. So it's the same Greek word. There will be signs: the sun, moon, and stars. Okay. So we know where to look to the stars. Well, Revelation 12 says, you got John the Revelator who's looking up. He says, this is in the sky. We know we're supposed to look for signs of the sun, moon, and stars. Okay, but does that mean that that's really what this is? Is there another reason to believe that this is what this is? Well, actually, yes. So this goes back to Frederick Larson, the guy who did the Star of Bethlehem. If y'all have seen it, you know how wonderful it is. But he started looking. He tried to figure out what the Bethlehem star was, and he actually used stellarium. I believe it may have been a sign. I think it could have been a different one, but I do think it is stellarium. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to have to hop over, so we're going to be looking at stellarium. I'm not going to be able to read your questions from this point on until I come back. So we can save all. So you can save all your questions and everything until we're done with that presentation. I'll come back. It'll all make sense. So let us go ahead and share. Okay, and let me pull up stellarium real quick. There we go. So this is stellarium. Unfortunately, I can't figure out how to get rid of the. See if I can make this a little bit bigger. I can't seem to get rid of the. There we go. I can't seem to get rid of this text over here on the side, and I apologize for that, but I haven't figured that out. But so here's where we are. So this is what I'm going to show you what Frederick Larson discovered, because he was looking for. What he realized is that whatever happened in the sky that made the Babylonian astrologers, right? These are magi. Whatever made them go find Jesus had to be something that they would recognize. And so it's like, well, so he was looking for something that a Babylonian, and this is key, a Babylonian astrologer would see and go, hey, we need to go to Jerusalem. And now you may be saying, well, okay, really, why would they know to do that? And let's point out one quick thing. These are Babylonian magi. What happened with Daniel? Remember, by the time Daniel was an old man, everyone who had ever come up against him in the Babylon, because remember, he was a Babylonian magi. When Nebuchadnezzar went and got conquered Israel, Daniel and his friends were brought to Babylon to be magi. Daniel became essentially the head of the magi. By the time that his life was over, everyone who opposed him was dead. The new king, he went through literally 2 different empires by the time he had passed. So everyone left, even though they were still going to end up being heathens, right? They weren't necessarily saved. but they had all of his writings, and he would have, and his acolytes, the people he taught, would have been the ones who survived. So they have, and remember, in Daniel's writings, which again, there's a mathematical formulation for when Jesus enters into Jerusalem for his crucifixion. They could do the math on that. They knew right when they were in about 100 years of when that was supposed to happen. They were probably looking for stuff. They're like, we don't know how old he's going to be when he enters Jerusalem, so we're going to be looking around this time frame. So they're watching, and here we come. I know it says -2. Just so y'all know, the way this works is essentially year one. There is no 0 in the BC AD calendar. So there's for here it's 1 AD. Then there's a 0. 0 is 1 BC. -1 is 2 BC. So -2 is 3 BC. So it's September 6th of 3 BC. And they know, right? These magi know something big is about to happen because they are very, very good at astronomy. Now, what do we have? We're centered on Jupiter. Jupiter is, let me back this up a few so you can kind of see it. That's Jupiter. Jupiter is the king star in the Babylonian, Hebrew, basically everybody else, in every version of Middle Eastern astrology, Jupiter is the king star. Regulus, again, Babylonian and Hebrew star charts are basically the same, more or less, having the same meaning. Regulus is the primary star of Leo, constellation of the Lion, Lion being the tribe of Judah. Okay, Regulus literally means throne in Hebrew. So the Magi know this, and because they've been watching for hundreds of years, and they know what's about to happen, but they're watching to see what happens. So here's what happens. On September 11th, according to our calendar, Regulus and Jupiter are what's called conjunction. Now remember, they don't have telescopes at this point, so as far as they're concerned, it's the same. On the 11th, it's the same star. It comes into conjunction, so they actually meet. The king is on the throne. Best way to look at it. But here's where it gets really interesting. So the king star sits on the royal throne in the constellation of Leo, the lion, which is the tribe of Judah. But here's what happens. I'm just going to advance this, and we can watch it, happen over days and weeks. This is what we call precession. You'll notice that Jupiter drops down, but then it's going to start moving backwards here in just a second. Why? Well, because that's how we're going to have to back up the hour now. Hold on. There we go. So, unfortunately, things change from day to day. So we'll notice that Jupiter is going to start heading back to Regulus because of precession. Boom, hits again. The king is now back on the throne. And we're going to keep going. Now we got to back up the time here. Man, I can tell you this for free. The Babylonians would have killed for this program. And now Jupiter's doing what again? Oh, it's heading back the way it was before, the general precession of its journey. Oh, look again. What happened? Another conjunction. Regulus and Jupiter have a triple conjunction. This would have been a huge sign, a massive sign to the Babylonian Magi. Jupiter, Regulus, triple conjunction. That's really interesting to them. Leo, sign of the lion, the tribe of Judah. Oh, by the way, did I forget to mention that September 11th, that first conjunction, was also Rosh Hashanah. While they were watching that first conjunction, the Babylonian Magi would have heard the trumpets of the shofars blow for a Jewish feast. Don't think that went unnoticed. Now what happens? 9 months after that first conjunction with Regulus, Jupiter and Venus meet, and they have their conjunction. Now you've heard of recent times Jupiter and Venus coming together in conjunction. This is literally the brightest thing in the night sky outside of the moon any human being has ever seen. This conjunction. It does happen from time to time. It's not rare per se. It happens every so often. But this is literally the brightest thing in the sky that they would have ever seen. Now, you can say, okay, that's really interesting. 9 months, that's the time of a child. Venus is the mother star. I mean, I know it's a planet, but to them it was the 5 visible planets they were just wandering stars. So you have the mother star and the king star all coming together after a triple conjunction with Regulus. They knew they were in the right time. They knew that he was supposed to come from the tribe of Judah. This was for them. They would have said, "This is it. This is our time to go. We got to go." The King of the Jews were just born. I would not be surprised if this is literally the time of Jesus' birth, on or about June 17th of 2 BC. This is probably the time Jesus was born. We can't say that for certain, right? But I would not be surprised if this was the case. At any rate, this is what the Babylonian Magi saw, and this is what sent them skittering across the desert to go find Jesus. Now, you may say, Jason, that is all good and well. Frederick Larson has done great work. This all looks very much like something that would send a bunch of pagans who knew Jesus was going to come fleeing across the desert to go find Jesus. Okay, true. But how does this apply to Revelation 12? What in this whole setup makes me think that Revelation 12 is that this ties into Revelation 12? To which I would say, that's a great question. You're very astute. Let's take a step back, shall we? Okay, we gotta go backwards again. Let's go back to September 11th. Okay. So now I'm in July. There we are. All right, so this is, I'm gonna have to do something here real quick. So this is, remember, this is the night. This is what they're seeing. Well, what's just beneath Leo, my good people? Virgo, the Virgin. Literally, this is who. This is the Virgin. Now, to the Babylonians, it's the Phallo, which again actually still symbolizes. And I won't go into graphic details what it means, but for them, it was female. It was a goddess. It was a fertility goddess, and there's lots of very, very, very vulgar poetry about her being implanted. That's why she's holding a sheaves of wheat. Virgo is about planting the whole 9 yards, even to the Babylonians. Okay. Now turn on the atmosphere. Okay, just so you know, so we can see everything better. But what do we have? We have the new moon right here, and there's a sun. She's literally, if we were to turn this on, the atmosphere, the sun is technically in Virgo. You would actually see nothing because the sun is right here. You would never see Virgo or Mercury, Venus for that matter. And the brand new moon is at her feet. So the woman clothed in the sun, the moon at her feet. But we're missing things. there's no serpent, and she doesn't have a crown of 12 thorns, well, or 12 stars. So that's what got me thinking and looking. I'm going to skip a bunch of materials to how I found it, because actually someone else found it. I gave up looking for it because I was looking in the 2030s. Because when I first started looking for this, I was still a pre-trib. I was someone who believed in the pre-trib rapture. So I thought this had to be and I believed everything had to happen within that 7-year period. So I was thinking this was a mid-trib sign. That is what I had been taught my entire life. So I was looking in the 2030s because I knew, or after 2030, because I knew Jesus really couldn't return before the year 2033, because the church age has to be complete first. So that's why I was very surprised to find all this, in the year 2017. But I don't want to go to year 2017 first. We need to hop over to the year 2015, August 13th to be precise. Oh, come on. 2015, August 15. Now, something may seem very familiar to you. Jupiter and Regulus are back together again. Now, this is not all that surprising. Remember, the sun is supposed to be in these constellations. This is how it works. So, but this is different. I'm going to recenter on Jupiter, by the way. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get rid of the, there we go. That way we don't have to keep backing up the time frame because it doesn't matter. So Jupiter is in Regulus again. This is literally midway between, remember during this time frame we had the lunar tetrad, the 4 blood moons, and the 2 different solar eclipses. This is literally in the middle of those events. So remember, Joel says moon turning to blood, the sun being darkened. Jesus says we have to look for signs in the sun, moon, and stars. So there have to be, before this constellation can be a thing, we have to have signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Well, what are in the sun and moon first? What do we have? We have 4 lunar tetrads and 2 solar eclipses, all occurring on Jewish either feast days or festivals. That's an important clue. So then what happens? Well, given that Revelation 12 is literally the story of Jesus, then Jupiter from this point on should actually tell us the story of Jesus, right? Well, where was Jesus before he was Jesus, when he was the Word? He was on the throne. He was in heaven. So now we're going to just advance by, we should probably do months for a little bit to get to 2017. But let's watch what happens. So Jupiter starts moving down. And then it's going to come into Virgo. Now, it's entered Virgo, and for 9 months, now we'll go to the days just so it's a little bit easier to see. It actually stays in Virgo. Its precession will allow it to back up. And what we're going to see, wow, this is going really slow. Let's do a few months here. It's going to stay in Virgo, there we go, until September. Don't want to overshoot. And I did anyway. So what do we have? We have Virgo. Jupiter has been in Virgo for 9 months. It's now between her legs, so the woman has given birth. The woman clothed in the sun. The moon's over here. Unfortunately, hiding from all this stuff down here. But you may be saying, but where's the crown of stars? To the Babylonians, because again, every constellation is a little different depending on the culture, right? Even cultures that agree on what the meaning is, that they count different stars. That's why it's very important that's the Babylonian Magi that saw the star, because for them, Leo only has 9 stars. So if Leo only had 9 stars for the Babylonians, well, what's special about this day? Mercury, Mars, Venus are all in alignment with Regulus. For this one moment, we could say Leo now no longer has 9, but 10, 11, 12 stars. The woman, clothed in the sun. Let's move this, see if I can find, because there's a new moon down here. Where's the moon? I'm probably missing it. The moon's down here somewhere. I'd probably turn some of this off. I'd see it. Anyway, because unfortunately it's a new moon, so it's real hard to see. We'll just come down here. And where's the moon? Oh, you know what? It's the time of day. That's my problem. Hold on. Don't you hate it when you lose a moon? Anyway, we'll find it. Anyway, the moon's down here. It's a new moon. So the sun. So again, she's clothed in the sun. She's got a crown of 12 stars. Jupiter's here, but you're like, okay, so the moon's beneath her. The sun is clothing her. She's got 12 stars. She's given birth to the child, but still, where's the dragon, right? Because there's supposed to be a dragon. And this is where virtually everyone else who claimed Revelation 12 and this alignment were the same thing. They all had different interpretations of the dragon, right? I, however, said, well, if the dragon, or if everything else is, again, up here, again, it's a woman clothed in the sun, all that, then we should really see a dragon. There should be a conjunction that made sense for a dragon. Well, the only other star or visible planet, really, that that wasn't a part of the original conjunction in one way or the other is down here. This is Saturn. Well, what is Saturn? Saturn is the planet of Nimrod. I'm just going to jump ahead. There's a lot of an argument for this, but essentially it is Nimrod's star. That's who it is. Ophiuchus, if you're unfamiliar with this particular constellation, it's only here's the moon, by the way. There it is. I knew it was down here somewhere. So the moon is, again, at the woman's feet. Saturn's down here. Ophiuchus is a very, very old constellation. Now, for the Greeks, it's a man wrestling with the snake, right? But that's not, and he's technically standing on the scorpion. A lot of people have tried to Christianize this particular constellation, but it doesn't matter what the Greeks think it was. What matters is what the Babylonians thought it was. There's a lot of different interpretations, but the two oldest interpretations, the ones that would have been around during the time of Daniel and in the people who went eventually looking for Jesus, is that this was a particular god. It was a serpent god. And I'm not kidding when I say this, because I always forget his name, starts with an N. It is literally the serpent from the Garden of Eden. That's not me saying that. That is every major Babylonian expert who's looked at this. They said this god is the serpent from the Garden of Eden. Sometimes he's depicted as a man with snake legs. Sometimes he's a king riding a giant snake, it doesn't matter. That's who this is. It is literally the serpent from the Garden of Eden. And Saturn, the star of Nimrod, is in it. This is our dragon, people. Now, you may be saying, but Jason, we go all the way back to 2 BC or to 3 BC. Okay, let's do that. You may be saying, but Saturn wasn't doing anything. How, wouldn't Saturn have needed to have been doing something on that day? To which I would say, yes, it would have needed to have been doing something on September 11th of 3 BC. And that's a really interesting question that you've asked. Y'all are quite smart. So, what was it doing on this really, really interesting day? So hard to move around the sky. I'm telling you this. It was hanging out between the horns of Taurus the bull. Now, this may mean absolutely nothing to you because you aren't in astrology. And you probably don't know exactly all that much about ancient Egyptian gods, which is fine. You're probably better off. So let me hop in and point something out. The Egyptians had a bunch of gods, but one god in particular, in fact, this sign takes several different forms, is you've all seen an Apis bull. An Apis bull is a bull that has the horns sort of turned up, and there's a sun disk in between the horns. You've all seen them. Now, here's the thing. I am willing to bet all the money in my pocket against all the money in anybody else's pocket that given the artwork we see at Jabal al-Lawz, which is the real Mount Sinai, that when the Jewish rebels at Sinai decided to create a golden calf, what they made was an Apis bull. You may be saying, okay, but why would Saturn, if it's a solar disk that's within the horns, why is Saturn being here make this an Apis bull? Great question. Here's the reason. Because the Apis bull, the sun, the idea of the solar disk within the horns is actually a version of the star and crescent. It's the Egyptian version. Again, not my opinion. This is well, and now everyone in the world is showing up at my house. This is the opinion of virtually every Egyptian and Semitic scholar on the planet. The red sun disk within the horns of the bull, making the Apis bull, that is the Egyptian version of the star and crescent. The star and crescent is the sign of Nimrod. It is Nimrod's symbol. It is one of the oldest symbols in the planet. So on the first day, 9/11, again, not a coincidence, but on September 11th of 3 BC, on Rosh Hashanah, while Jesus is being proclaimed over at Leo, we have Saturn, the star of Nimrod, in between the horns of Taurus, symbolizing the Apis bull, which is the golden calf from Mount Sinai. So now we know why Revelation 12 and this Annunciation of Jesus are intimately connected. We've decoded the whole thing. So let's jump back to 2017. Because this is where most people ended, was September 27th. I should be able to focus on, there we are. So this is where virtually everyone stops. They're saying, here it is, this is the day, this is Revelation 12. Woman clothed with the sun, moon's all the way down here. She's given birth to the male child. She's crowned with 12 stars, and we got the dragon down here. with Saturn and Ophiuchus. Great, we're done. Pack up the bags and move on. Here's my problem. And I'm about to tell you exactly why I believed that this had nothing to do with the rapture. And I'm now, again, by this point of my life, I was pre-wrath, so that would help. But I realized, hold on, I'm pre-wrath. It can't possibly. And again, for all the reasons I'm pre-wrath, I knew that this could not be the day of the rapture. So it made me ask, well, hold on, since everyone's stopping on this one day, is there a reason to stop there? Because wouldn't we want to go back to the text? And indeed we do. Because here's the problem. If we stop here on this one day, sorry, keep overshooting it, boom, 27th. If we were to stop on September 27th of 2017, we would only have gotten this far. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. We would have to stop right there. And literally everyone did. In fact, if you go back and watch anyone talking about this from the time, again, except for me, sorry, I am a little bitter on this one. It hurt. Everyone stopped there. But I looked at this and I said, this cannot possibly stop there because we have the rest of the sentence, right? We have literally, it's the rest of the sentence. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. So that's where the verse ends. Okay. Well, where would the child's throne be? I believe all the smart little boys and girls are going to follow me on this one. Let's jump ahead by years. Hold on, let's center on this again. Boom. Jupiter's in the center. If we jump ahead 10 years, we're going to have to back up a couple months. That's too far. Could have actually just gone ahead. I'm an idiot. All right. 27. Here we go. July 27th of 2027, 3 sevens, we have Jupiter back in Regulus. Literally, the child has been caught up back to his throne. We finished the sentence. I'm going to hop out of this now so I can see y'all. Okay, there we are. I hope that made sense. Okay, so oh, I see Texas decided to come in here and say howdy and distract everyone. I'm not going through that again. So if y'all didn't catch it the first time, that's on you. So now we can start talking, and we can start talking about this. Let's hop up. Yeah, there we are. So we can start doing questions now. So, Bat Mom, don't be like that. So here's what's happening. What John was seeing was what was given to him was a sign. It was something for us. He wrote down for us to see it. This is what is happening. Revelation 12 is a signpost. It is to tell us where we are in eternity, where we are in this grand scheme of things. And it's a trust me, I am scratching the surface of this. This is the scratched surface of this. Trust me, if y'all want it, go read the book. But it's at the very least, on the most superficial level, it is a signpost to say, this is where we are, right? Well, so what happens at the end of the verse. Remember? So yes, Titan, it is the king sitting on the throne. So it's a signpost. What does the signpost tell us? Because a sign is supposed to tell you something, right? Like, boom, this person's an idiot, or you need to take a right over here because you're about to run out of road or something, right? The signs mean something. Well, the rest of the sign is verse 6. What is verse 1 through 5 telling us? This is where you are. Well, where are we? After the child is caught up to his throne, so July 27 of 2027. After that date, that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say when it happens after the date, only that it occurs after the date. That's all you can say. There are going to be people who are going to say, okay, so on this, nope, you don't know that. The text doesn't tell us this. It just says that it occurs after. So after the child is caught up to God and to his throne, what happens? And the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. Now, we know the woman is many things, but it's Israel. That's who she is. So the first part of the sign is the astronomical alignments to tell us where we are. The next set is what's happening politically. The woman, Israel, she flees to the place prepared by God in the wilderness. Well, some people say it's Petra, some people say it's this. Guys, it's much easier than that. Where is the place in the wilderness prepared for the woman? It's Israel. That's why Israel exists. It is the place where the woman, Israel, belongs. Israel, so all the Jewish people are going to flee to Israel. It's already happening, people. The Jewish people around the world are fleeing because it's not safe for them. Not in Europe. Even here in the U.S., people are saying, hey, I got to get out of here. In Europe, anti-Semitism is on the rise in a way that they haven't seen since World War II. It is insane. That's what's happening right now. But, well, don't jump ahead of the story, Titan. So the rest of this is pretty straightforward. We've come to the end of the hour, so I could go on and on, so I'm not going to. We're just going to tighten up this one story. The 2017 alignment has not ended. It isn't over until 2027. You'll note September 11th of 3 BC was the Annunciation of Jesus. This is not a coincidence. Granted, I'm the first one to say we need to focus on the Hebrew calendar, not our calendar, but nothing is ever by coincidence. The fact that it was September 11th, right, of 3 BC, and we get attacked on September 11th of 2001, and that starts all of these events that have culminated to today. And we've talked about the intertwining of Islam and the Antichrist. This is not a coincidence. Jesus, and this is where most people get Matthew 24 wrong. They say, well, at the end times, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. By the way, I've heard a different translation of that. It's uprisings, wars and uprisings. Oh, that sounds awfully familiar. But like, there's going to be wars and uprisings. And there's going to be these waves and earthquakes in diverse places. Everyone misses the next part. He says, but the end is not yet. That is the beginning of sorrows. The sorrows is the pains, the birth pains that a woman endures, during birth. I mean, this is what it is. So I've never said this publicly, but I am now very, very convinced. September 11th of 2001 is the beginning of the birth pains. This part I have said. And I stand by it. July 27th of 2027 is the end of the time of the beginning of sorrows. After that date is when the tribulation will occur. Now, does it mean it happened? It's that the 7-year contract is signed in 2027? No, it does not mean that at all. There's no reason to believe that it would actually happen in that year. All we know for certain is that it begins after. The 7-year period cannot happen before July 27 of 2027. Period. End of story. If my theory is correct, and again, if you read the book, you will find I have done more than shown the receipts. This is the alignment. Let me answer one other thing. There are going to be people who are going to say, but constellations aren't just 9 stars. There's thousands of stars within them. Anyone who says that is lying to you. Well, they're not lying to you. They're trying to sell you a bill of goods. Here's why. Yes, there are countless stars within any one constellation, but those stars within the constellation do not make the constellation, right? The constellation are very key stars of particular brightness. That's what they are. That's just what a constellation is. Now, that's why the number of stars counted, that varies from culture to culture. That is why the Babylonians had to be a particular, that's our cipher, right? Think of it this way. It's a coded message. Well, the only way any coded message, by the way, I believe Crow, well, he's disappeared. Crow, you're in the military. You should know, right? If you have a coded message, you need a cipher to decipher the message. The Babylonians are the cipher. That's why we kept going back to the Babylonian Magi. Their interpretation of the constellations are what matters. The other objection is that, well, these kinds of alignments happen all the time. Yes, absolutely true. Not any one particular alignment or conjunction is not terribly rare. Most of them happen every 10 to 15, 20 years, sometimes a couple times a century, right? But it isn't any one alignment that matters. What we are looking for is a series of alignments and conjunctions that occur on feast days, Jewish feast days. And each star has to play the same role. Jupiter has to be Jesus. Saturn has to be Satan. They have to follow solar and lunar events that, again, also occur on Jewish feast days. When you throw all of these things in it, what you have is an event that has literally only happened, and I double-checked this back in 2014, and I've checked it twice since. I have gone 40,000 years into the past. I have gone 40,000 years into the future. I have not ever found anything similar to this at all. When you put everything together, Jewish feast days, solar lunar eclipses, Jupiter being within Virgo for 9 months, the stars lining over an 80,000 year period, it happens once. That's what this is, guys. That's what Revelation 12. If you doubted where you were in this book, this is where you're at. You are in Revelation 12. You are literally in between right now. You're in between verses 5 and 6. That's where we all exist right now. As I've said, the seals, they cover the whole time period. The trumpets are covering the whole time period. This is not, it's not like, okay, so then we can. Revelation 12 is its own self-contained story. So you're not in the middle of the book. That's not where you are, but you are in Revelation 12. You are in between verses 5 and verses 6, period. The time is now. There is no better time to be serious than about what's happening. Remember, we got time. 2027 is 6 years away. Now, it's not a lot of time, but it's time. We have to be wise. We have to put our time and investments where they matter. Now, remember, I'm not saying that the 7 years starts in 2027. I think the latest it can start, personally, is 2030. Really, 2033 would be the latest I would think that this could start. But it could go much longer. Again, that's just me. It could go much later than that. But I would suspect that the final 7 years have started, I'd say by Pentecost of 2033. That's, for me, if I were a betting man, and I'm not, because I have no luck. I only gamble with my life and my heart. But if I were a betting man, I would say Pentecost of 2033 is as late as it would start. This is the fight, folks. There is no, well, if God may tarry 100 years, God's not tarrying 100 years. We are in Revelations 12, verse 5 through 6. This is where we are. There ain't 100 years. So this is the fight. That's it. You're in it. You are seeing history play out in front of you. Now, this begs all kinds of questions. The question was that follows up, because we see, the dragon pours out water out of its mouth. What does that mean? I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I think it could be taken metaphorically. I think it could be taken spiritually. It could be taken any number of ways. I'm not 100% on that. The Titan asks if the stars falling to earth are the principalities and powers in the heavens. Yes, that's exactly what they are. Remember, they have to die. The powers, the principalities, the spirits of the air, the things that currently rule this world, they get shot down. They have to die so Jesus can take the throne and inherit us. He's on the throne, but he's going to inherit us, the nations. That's his power. They have to be cast down first. They have to be cast into hell first. They have to come here. That's what's going to happen. So this is why, right? So hold on. So that's why we have to pray against these things. Now, MH1953 has a great question here. MH1953 said that I always thought the 1/3 of the angels that Satan had gotten on his side, that those are the stars that is talked about that swept out of the sky. Here's the thing, MH1953. Yes, you are correct. They are the angels that Satan has gotten on his side. The problem is this. We have always been told that happened in the past, and it's not true. Demons are not fallen angels. Remember this. So I'm about to tell you one of the greatest lies about spiritual warfare that the modern church believes is that demons are fallen angels and that all happened in the past. That is all untrue. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Now, there are other spirits of higher in power, but where did they come from? Remember, when God separated himself from mankind at the Tower of Babel, we have the 70 spirits over which rule man. They all have armies underneath them with soldiers of different abilities and rankings. Those are those spirits. Not every demon is an evil spirit, but let me rephrase this. Every demon is an evil spirit, but not every evil spirit is a demon. The thing is, the armies of these 70 spirits, they were corrupted. The angels and the other spirits over mankind, they were corrupted over time. It's not a one-time thing. Satan didn't fall and take everyone with us or with him and take away past. It's been an ongoing process. The spirits above us, they've been corrupted. They are cast down in Revelation 12. so Jesus can inherit the nations. It's an ongoing thing. In fact, we've talked about this, but let me be 100% clear. Again, I wrote a book on this one. It's called Lucifer is Not Satan. The fall of Satan, where Satan, the being that we call Satan, he falls in Genesis 3. When he tempts us, that is his fall from grace. That's when God's like, nope, you're on the earth. We're done with this. The Watchers come next. And then we have the Tower of Babel. That's the spirits over us. It was a progression. Revelation is the end of the rebellion. It's when Jesus comes and settles all the scores. That is why we pray against these powers and principalities, because they weren't evil when God gave us over to them. They had a job, but they became corrupt. And Revelation 12 is their fall. And so that they can be destroyed and Jesus can inherit the nations at his coming. MH 1953 asked, did the Nephilim become demons because they were not God-created beings? Sort of yes, sort of no. So what happened was, because of their evil, God sent, I believe it was Uriel to send them, or Raphael, one of the two, to send them a delusion. And they warred with each other, and they literally murdered each other. But because their spirits are not natural, they were allowed to wander the earth as intangible, invisible spirits. There is other text that suggests that they were allowed to stay on the earth because certain angels wanted to use them to basically say, look, humanity is evil. We need these things. They're going to be useful tools. But either way, their spirits are allowed to wander the earth because they don't have a natural spirit. So that's it. So yes, no, Gene, the fall did not happen all at once, and it's a progression. So we have Satan, humanity, the Watchers, and then the 70 spirits, and then those 70 represented whole armies of beings and different spirits. And so by the time that we're done, by the time Jesus is returning, it's 1/3 of all the angels. They get cast out. Diamond, Greek for shining one, stars. Yes, it is where we get the word diamond. So it's weird. That's also where we get the word demon from. So it's weird. Could we get the Lucy, the Sky of Diamonds? Yes, actually, you know what? Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't a Beatle. I did not sell my soul to a man on a flaming pie. And if you're old enough to know that story, that just means you're old. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I have to go back to work, and I'm probably going to be working until 1 or 2 in the morning. But that's okay, because I'm taking tomorrow off. I'm taking my birthday off, and we're going to hang out, and then I'm going to go look for Sasquatch. If Sasquatch really wanted to wish me a happy birthday, he let me get a good, solid photograph of him, and, maybe fall. I don't know. If he wants to have a heart attack in front of me, I don't want to shoot one. But if they want to fall, if he wants to allow me to get a good shot, good photograph of it, and then if he wants to just die of a heart attack or a stroke conveniently, so we have physical evidence, that would be a happy birthday to me. But I don't know that Bigfoot is, all that happy. I don't know that Bigfoot's really into birthdays. So we'll have to wait and see. So on that note, people, I will catch y'all on Sunday. We're going to be talking about Rosh Hashanah, which we just talked about. And it's going to be awesome because there is so much there. Again, the fall feasts are going to have, again, like Passover, it's going to be one meeting apiece because there's so much material there to talk about, so much prophetically to happen that it's amazing. So, again, I'm going to catch y'all on Sunday. We're going to talk about the Feast of Trumpets. I hope this was useful for you. Like I said, this is all going to be, I'm going to be doing individual videos that will go up on sirupapers because there's just so much to talk about on this. But we're going to be combining things, Facebook page, the YouTube page, We're going to bring it all together. It's going to be wonderful. And we're really going to start putting more material out there so y'all can share with your friends and those of you want to minister to, and those who have questions about the paranormal and the Bible, and how to reconcile those and get a better view of the world. I also happen to know that in the very near future, no dates promised, those other guys in that other channel that happen to talk about politics will be coming back. It just will be very, very different from what they used to do. Just saying. We'll catch y'all later. Be good.